start by saying that our love and prayers of every American continue to be with our fellow citizens who have lost a cherished friend or family member to the virus. Amidst our grief, we're making tremendous strides against this invisible enemy, thanks to our aggressive campaign against the virus and the extraordinary talent of our medical professionals. Our mortality rate remains roughly half of that of many other countries and one of the lowest of any country in the world. And that's due to a lot of things, but our medical professionals have been incredible. Since we announced our guidelines on opening up America, as we call it, we say opening up America, and we add the word again. I think we can add the word probably again, but that's what it is. We're opening up America again. 20 states representing 40% of the U.S. population have announced that they are making plans and preparations to safely restart their economies in the very near future. So that's 20 states. It's about 40% of our country. They're moving along pretty quickly. 3 announced today, as you know. And they're going to be doing it safely. They're going to be doing it with tremendous passion. They want to get back to work. The country wants to get back to work. A short time ago, the Senate passed the Paycheck Protection Program and Healthcare Enhancement Act with additional funding for the Paycheck Protection Program, hospitals, and testing. A lot of money for all of them, especially for our workers and our small businesses. My administration has worked aggressively with Congress to negotiate this critical $482 billion funding package. We reached a deal that includes $382 billion in crucial small business support to keep workers on the payroll, $75 billion to aid hospitals, which really need the aid, and very badly. Very proud of that. And $25 billion to support coronavirus testing efforts. I urge the House to pass the bill, and they're going to be voting on it, I imagine, very, very soon. I think while we're here, and so he's a very busy man, as you know, Secretary Mnuchin, he's going to be running back, so I thought we'll talk about that now, and we'll take a couple of questions on that, and then he can go and start phase 4 as the ink is drying. Probably they'll be voting tomorrow in the House, but shortly, and I think we have tremendous support. So, Steve, please come up, say a few words. Steve? Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you for all your work with us to get this passed. I'd especially like to thank Mitch McConnell and Chuck Schumer and the entire Senate for passing this. I'd also like to thank Kevin McCarthy and Nancy Pelosi, who have been working with us round the clock as well, and our Chief of Staff, Mark Meadows, who was also very instrumental in this. Let me just comment. We've had tremendous support for the PPP. This gives us another $310 billion for the PPP. We look forward to the House passing this tomorrow and being up and running quickly after that. This also gives us $50 billion for disaster loans, EIDL loans, that will allow the SBA to make $300 billion of disaster loans, all for small businesses. Also allows us, as the President said, more money to hospitals and an unprecedented amount of money for testing. And again, I think we understand hospitals, not only the hospitals that have been impacted by coronavirus, but more importantly, many hospitals that have been shut down, and making sure that the doctors and nurses get money. Now, let me make just one more comment on the program. We have over 1 million companies that have received this with less than 10 workers. So there is very broad participation in really small business. I will comment there have been some big businesses that have taken these loans. I was pleased to see that Shake Shack returned the money. We will be putting out some FAQs. There is a certification that people are making. And I ask people just make sure the intent of this was for business that needed the money. We'll put out an FAQ. But again, the intent of this money was not for big public companies that have access access to capital.
Not for Harvard, you might say.
So, Mr. Secretary, are you going to request that those other companies, because obviously Shake Shack was not alone in being a big company that got money in this, are you going to be asking?
Request.
You're going to ask them to return that money?
Yep.
Yeah,
Harvard's going to pay back the money, and they shouldn't be taking it. So Harvard's going to. You have a number of, I'm not going to mention any other names, but when I saw Harvard, they have one of the largest endowments anywhere in the country, maybe in the world, I guess, and they're going to pay back that money.
And I just want to clarify, because certain people on the PPP may have not been clear in understanding the certification. So we will give people the benefit of the doubt. We're going to put an FAQ out, explain the certification. If you pay back the loan right away, you won't have liability to the SBA and to Treasury. But there are severe consequences for people who don't attest properly to this certification. And again, we want to make sure this money is available to small businesses that need it, people who have invested their entire life savings. We appreciate what's going on, and they're hiring people back.
And how are you going to ensure that those small businesses, those small restaurants, cafes, bars, who did not get the money last time around are going to get it this time?
Well, as I said, there are a million of these companies that did get it that are very small. We're working with the banks. We're extremely pleased that the small banks did great. 20% of the loans were made by banks of $1 billion and less, 60% by 20 billion and less, and the big banks also. We want everybody to participate. There's now a lot of money back in the program, and we look forward to all these small businesses getting access to funds. Brett, it's great to see you here.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Do you estimate how long this is going to take? That other pot of money obviously went quickly. Do you assume this is going to go quickly as well?
Well, let me just say, we're pleased with the success of this program and how quickly this got up operationally. We've put out more money in these SBA loans than in the last 10 years of SBA. So I want to thank all the banks that have worked really hard. We knew that when we passed this originally, if there was full takeout, we wouldn't have enough money. That's why we've worked with Congress for more money. And this is going to, we've already impacted about 30 million workers. There'll be a lot more. So we look forward to this having a big impact on the economy.
Yesterday, the president said he would look into the issue of felons, those with criminal convictions, getting access to some of these programs. I was wondering if you have an update on that.
Sure. So we worked with the White House on this. There were actually much more onerous restrictions in the SBA program. There were people who had misdemeanors that weren't allowed to access the program. It was much longer than 5 years. And, we very much, because of the criminal reform legislation that was passed and the work that's been done in the White House by Jared and others, we specifically designed the program, and the 5 years was significantly shorter than what had been done before. So we had already taken that into account. For now, we're not going to do that. But I want to just emphasize, we did take this into account. There were a lot of people that wouldn't have access previously, and we changed those regulations.